Before we begin, I would like to invite our listeners to help support our podcast and YouTube channel by becoming a Patreon of Vital Bioenergetics. By joining our Patreon, you are not only supporting the free content that we're producing, you will receive coupon codes, special offers, and inside information on the work that we're doing to help humanity raise their vibration to the next level. Please go to www.patreon.com/vitalbioenergetics and become a Patreon today. And now for today's podcast. Welcome to High Vibes. I am your host, Bill G, with co-host Nina G. At High Vibes, we're looking into what it means to be a fourth dimensional being in an ever-changing world. We hope that by listening to this podcast, you can feel a greater sense of peace and connection as we collectively raise our energetic vibration to the next level. And now for today's podcast. Hello and welcome to
High Vibes.
I'm Bill G and I'm here with Nina. And today we're going to again focus on doing an Akashic clearing and research, so that way that you can do the frequency work on your own whenever you listen to this. So for today, I think we need to preface this particular reading today with how we spent our last weekend. We went down to New Jersey to go to my nephew's wedding, and it was a very nice ceremony.
It was awesome. It was really nice.
And so best luck to Alex and Oki on that, in case you are listening, because we love you guys very, very much. But going down actually brought up a lot of stuff, as can be expected, given the fact that, we haven't seen our families in over 2 years because of COVID. And now we are face to face with them, dealing with all their crap and all of our crap. And this reading came up because I believe that Spirit is trying to show us here that we have things that we have to deal with our families. Families are going through an enormous dark night of the soul, tower moment, whatever you want to call it. And so clearing here is very, very necessary. So the first thing that came up when we did the Akashic research was from the first density distortions chart, the element of phosphorus. So on the surface, phosphorus is one of those dietary things that allow other vitamins and minerals to work within the body.
It's also an alchemical chemical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's used, it is thought that since it produces light, or seeming light from itself, that it brings about, wisdom, like the light in the darkness.
Yes, some people have called it the element of the highest point of seeking spirituality. So, I think that's kind of setting the tone for this Akashic reading, because we're here being seekers, and now we are faced with some constructs and some distortions that are getting in the way of that spiritual seeking. Because I think right now, more than any other time, a lot of that, we're seeking spirituality, we're seeking our soul's purpose within this whole mishigas of craziness that's happening. And the biggest thing, our biggest obstacle, is our own families often.
Yeah, because this makes a lot of sense, because as we grow up in our families, our families acted a certain way and they came from a certain place. So they knew, they learned how to act from their families and all the way down their ancestral line. And as things are radically shifting and changing right now, relationships get kind of mixed up. And, sometimes part of what's happening now are people are leaving and new people are coming in, and we are kind of redefining our relationships with everyone, but mostly our families, because we have, for many of us, we have a lot of contact with them. and they're just kind of part of our lives, just like at a wedding where your whole family is there.
Yes. So the constructs that came up here were the first one was family programming as the motivation for a construct. And we talked about this briefly in our episode about constructs, that family programming is those things that we bring in from our Bardo experience before we are incarnated. And because we all choose to join a family in order to learn certain lessons, in order to have certain experiences.
We may not understand that family, and that family may not understand us, but we are born into it because of the gifts that they do bring to us, that we can learn what it is that we need to learn and do what we need to do.
Right. And the blocking construct within that is genetic beliefs. And again, that's very much associated and pointed to your family. Because where do you get your genetics? Well, you get them from mom and dad, and they got them from grandma and grandpa, and et cetera, et cetera. And those genetic beliefs can translate into racial and cultural. They can also translate into physical and other such constructs that, again, constructs are designed to allow us to get us through third density experience, but they also act as a barrier to realization of fourth density existence.
Yeah, they act as a catalyst so we can overcome.
And so the last construct within this construct trio here is the major archetype of the recluse, of Hades. And so it's a masculine one, but it also associates with the mystic and the feminine as well. And so I think this is kind of representing yourself here, or ourselves when we went to go see the family, is that we've been kind of living the life of the recluse over the last 2 years.
I think everybody has, huh?
Right. And so we are having our own spiritual experiences. We're interpreting our own life in relation to this whole world situation that we're going through. And this was like the first time in 2 years that we go and actually see face to face our family members. And
there's a lot of love, and there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of confusion. And I think when you haven't connected with someone for a long time, you kind of lose your place, your spot, your grounding with them.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And in some ways, you see them and you're like, oh, wow, that's that person that, that we used to have Sunday dinners with, or we used to have holidays with, and that didn't happen for over a couple of years. So you missed out on some of that connection. I mean, even if you connected through Zoom, and even if you've connected through other phone calls and that sort of thing, you lose something in that, because you're every day, you're no longer reconnecting to that family programming. You're no longer reconnecting to, okay, this is the way I'm supposed to act within my family dynamic. Because every time you meet your family or you get together with your family, there are unwritten rules about how to act. This is how we are as a family.
And not doing that is good.
It is good, because that's the one blessing that I think COVID has given all of us, is a chance to really get to know who we are as a person. And in order to do that, we need to activate that mystic, that recluse archetype within ourselves, so that way we can learn who we are without the context and the constant connection with our programming, at least on a family level. So the next thing on here we went to is the time temple chart number 4 with its life path distortions chart. And that one's I think my favorite of the time temple charts, because that goes heavily into the law of one. Because here we have the distortion of light and wisdom. The density is the third density, or the law of self-awareness. The Godhead program is conscious creation versus unconscious creation. The bad habit is keeping bad company, and the color is green. So to break this down here, the distortion, light and wisdom, that's associated a lot with the fifth density, where we are bringing together the entirety of our life experiences, and we're making them into wisdom. We're transforming it into wisdom, which is against a lot of what's been happening in our transformation process in this whole age of COVID, is that by spending time on our own, we can now have the time or the space to look at all of our experiences and try and find some kind of meaning in all of it.
We can also really get to know ourselves as to what we want out of life, what we're not going to tolerate anymore, our dreams and goals and that type of thing.
So and that goes into the third density, which is the law of self-awareness. And the third density is what we're going through right now. And like we said before, that the third density is about that choice point. Am I going to be more service to others? Am I going to be more service to self? And again, it's really hard to come to that choice point if you're constantly running, and are constantly reconnecting to and reinforcing with that family programming. So this was definitely something to help you get past that and gain some wisdom out of it. Conscious creation versus unconscious creation. Now this goes into manifestation, and we did a show about this some time back when we were talking about dreaming our existence, or dreaming what it is that we need in our lives, versus trying to manifest it.
Yeah, trying to force it. There's a expansion out from what you already have and what you already are, which is dreaming. And then there's manifestation, which is wishing and putting your intention on something and trying to make that happen.
And then we got this bad habit of keeping bad company, which in this particular context, I think it's talking about our families, because our families hold us back.
Not like they're bad company, but everybody has their own stuff and we have our own stuff. And when we keep perpetuating our stuff around the loop with each other, we become mired in the construct. So,
Right, because in spiritual response therapy, we call these inheritance programs, because when we are constantly around a parental figure, or even children are around a parental figure or uncle figure or whatever that adult person is going through in their lives can be then transferred onto the child, especially when they're between the ages of 0 to 7. Actually, it's up to 7 years old. So up to 7 years old. So you got to be so careful when you're around kids. And actually, that's one of the reasons I think when our son was born, why we tried our very best to kind of keep him away from as many people as possible. We kind of kept him kind of to ourselves that whole time, because we didn't want all of that world programming coming on him all the time. I think on an unconscious level, we did that anyway.
I just did it because I didn't trust anyone with my little precious baby.
Well, which is exactly that. You can look at it that way, because because we knew on an intuitive level. Okay, it's in the color of green, which is the color of the looping timeline.
This is the very present, the now.
So what is this now telling us in this particular density distortion? Is that we want to initiate light and wisdom. We want to become wiser, so that way we can vibrate at a higher level. And we do that through our choice points. But there's the conflict. The conflict is, okay, do I create this consciously, or do I create this unconsciously? Do I dream it versus wanting to force it? And we tend to fall back on our programming every single time, our family programming every single time. And that's why it's a loop. I want to do something that's different. My mother's never going to approve.
So the color green can also mean the things that you're constantly in, the things that you're comfortable with keeping, and so you do keep them, or the things that you think you need to keep. Like, I always refer back to the bad job. I've had so many bad jobs, and
Me
I've
too.
hated all of them. And but there's a lot there. You want to make money, you need to take care of your family, maybe you want to go on a vacation once in a while. So you keep things that maybe you don't like too much, or you keep people in your life because they're family, they're blood, and it's not that you don't love them or anything, but you know maybe they don't treat you so great, or they're going through their own stuff and they don't really know that they're not treating you great. So it's that big conundrum of life. But the green is everything that is constantly being looped in your present.
Yes, and because the green is actually the most prevalent color within the spectrum, within the visible light spectrum.
What did you hear the other day about the green ray?
Oh yeah, the green ray also contains messaging. It contains fourth density messaging.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't it? Because it's the thing that's most often here. It's like the middle of the tesseract, right? If you've taken our timetable chart workshop, you know what we're talking about. But the tesseract is a example of fourth density and how it moves, right? You have a center cube and it moves out in all directions. And your experience of life then is now not just in the 3D, the length, width, and height, but now it's all of that plus time, which moves out in all different directions. So the green ray or the green light brings in messaging, because it's bringing in messaging from every single place that you've ever gotten wisdom. So it brings in from your ancestors, it brings in from your family that's currently, it brings in from yourself and your environment, everything and everyone that is right there in your 4 to 6 second reality.
Right. And so what's interesting about this too is because we hit the color green, now we can go to an anchoring distortion. And that anchoring distortion is what exists within that red ray, which is what we're trying to bring into that awareness.
Yeah, the novel, the synchronistic event that can change your 4 to 6 second current.
Right. And so the distortion here is self-awareness, is going back to the third density here. And the density designation here is the first density, the law of confusion or the law of chaos or the law of free will. And then we have conviction versus faith and the bad habit of bigotry. So what is this telling us here about our 4 to 6 second reality that we're trying to bring into our awareness? With self-awareness, again, this is informing our third density self of the choice point. So whenever third density comes up, self-awareness comes up, I'm always brought back to that choice point. So in first density here, we're talking about free will. We can choose to keep bad company. We can choose to refer back to our families for our programming all the time, or we can choose something else. Conviction versus faith. Conviction is more action-based and faith is more passive. So here's the conflict. Do I actively pursue my growth and expansion, or do I simply wait for it to happen? Then the bad habit of bigotry. Where do you think that comes from?
I think I know. I think that because of our current situation, whatever we see currently, we are very prejudiced of everything outside of it.
Absolutely. I mean, polarization energy is at an all-time high, and it's been that way basically since last December, where people are at each other's throats now about this whole thing of everything surrounding politics, everything surrounding the virus, everything's providing the pandemic or whatever. It has created such an incredible amount of polarization to the point where families are breaking up where people who once loved each other can't even talk to each other anymore.
But see, this is really interesting, because where there might have been stagnation before, you have this catalyst coming in that's shaking everything up, and it's shaking all the bad stuff out so that it comes into your consciousness, and then you can deal with it. Maybe for the first time ever, especially with families when we don't really see these things, we need something kind of big to happen in order for us to see it. So here we are seeing all of our garbage.
Yeah.
And we're able now to go, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. And
this I tolerated before.
Yeah.
This I am not tolerating anymore, because this is no longer speaking to my truth, and it never did. But I put up with it for the sake of the family programming. But now that I've spent some time away from it, now I can say, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm not going to be putting up with it anymore. And so, just to sum up here, of the everything that's in this reading, is we have this phosphorus idea, this element coming in, this glowing
wisdom, light,
and that being slowed down or being catalyzed by our family programming, our family beliefs that are, and it's all about that choice point. We need to get to that choice point. Third density came up twice here. We need to get there.
We need to decide that we are going to go after our joy and listen to our own personal instructions rather than the instructions of others.
Pursuing joy is selfish and non-selfish at the same time. It's service to self and service to others at the same time, because when you are pursuing your joy, you are doing work that is expansive and creates joy in others just from being in your presence, because you're being more joyful. And so now we're going to activate the clearing, bringing into awareness. So take a moment, close your eyes if you can. And we're going to ask Spirit now to bring into our conscious awareness the idea that we are seekers of universal light and wisdom, that we are going to bring into that awareness and into our actions in our everyday, acting from a place of pure joy, from pure love. We're going to take the time to withdraw from our family programming, to really see who we are without that context in place. We're going to translate our inner instruction into action. So that our connections, our love, and our expansion not only extends within our own self-awareness, but within the awareness of everyone who is around us. And so it is. So, thank you very much for listening to our podcast today. If you would like to go into a more specific family dynamic investigation onto what is blocking you from experiencing your wisdom, please go to our website, vitalbioenergetics.com/book
online.
and book a free 30-minute consultation so we can talk about your issue and then schedule an appointment. And so that way we can investigate and clear out your issues so that you can have a better life experience in these crazy, crazy times that we live in today. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. For more information about Bill and Nina G, please visit our website at www.vitalbioenergetics.com. See you next time.